Build One South Africa has launched a water litigation initiative to declare water shedding unconstitutional in commemoration of Human Rights Day. The party will take this legal fight to the Constitutional Court. Good evening, Ms. Hlazo-Webster. Thank you very much for joining us on the SABC. So talk to us about this legal challenge you intend to bring.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having us on this very important and historic day. I want to say happy Human Rights Day to all South Africans. And so we have decided as Build One South Africa that how we will mark this day is to announce that we are going to be seeking an interdict in order to prevent water shedding in essential institutions and a mandatory order that compels municipalities and the Department of Water and Sanitation to implement immediate remedial measures to restore water supply throughout the country. As we know, there are numerous places throughout the country that are struggling with water, whether it's villages, whether it's towns, even in suburbs. We're seeing that that's been an issue, and it's something that's been building up. And as Build One South Africa, we've been fighting this for 2 years now. We have also been in communities intervening with water tanks, drilling boreholes, but the reality is that we actually have to have an intervention that's at the scale and at the level of national and local government to make sure that the right to water is upheld in this country.
But government on numerous occasions has attributed the water issues to aging infrastructure, lack of funding, and perhaps where you had previous administrations that didn't have a proper maintenance plan. So are those at least some of these reasons that they advance, are they not good enough?
These reasons are certainly not good enough. The reasons that they advance are from neglect from government. So when you talk about aging infrastructure, when you're talking about infrastructure that has not been maintained, that is because of neglect from government. When you talk of some of the other issues, we also know that we have people who are deployed into positions that don't have the requisite skills. So you have issues of deployment of people who don't have skills. That's part of the other issues. We don't have the skill that we need. But most importantly, we have issues of corruption that take place where contracts have actually been appointed, contractors have been appointed, and they've failed to actually maintain infrastructure. We have water treatment plants that are not in the state that they should be because contracts have been awarded, and that has not been done. So the issues are many. They are the fault of government. It's government that is at fault, and it's government that has to make sure that they, at the very least, as a start, ensure that essential institutions have water. You go to a school during the week, and you will find that at 10 a.m., 12 p.m., the children have to go home almost every day because there's no water. You go to a clinic, people are turned back because there's no water. There is no way that that can continue. There's, of course, other issues in that when you even talk about a home, you can't function in a home without water. But when you talk about the economy is disrupted because we've now started to see water shedding that is taking place. And you have businesses that have to close during times of water shedding. And we're saying that, first of all, we have to make sure that essential institutions are exempt from water shedding. But we're also then saying we want judiciary oversight that will oversee the restoration of water reticulation even to households and businesses over time. That is the second intervention.
How would this judicial oversight look like? Are you looking perhaps for them to order that a body be established which will perhaps comprise of a diverse group of people, be it community leaders, politicians as well, business people, etc.? What would that look like if this is among some of the orders that you seek?
Absolutely. We are seeking the appointment of an independent water crisis monitor that will oversee municipalities, report to the courts on the progress of water restoration. We're going to want a reporting that is periodic in terms of how far are municipalities in restoring that water, and of course the Department of Water Sanitation as an oversight body. And consistently, the Minister of Water and Sanitation distances herself from the responsibility of ensuring that municipalities are delivering. But it is the responsibility of the Department of Water and Sanitation to oversee, but also that department has a right, according to Section 63 of the Water Services Act, they have a right to intervene in instances where municipalities have failed. And when you have schools that are not operating because there's no water, when you have clinics, when you have government departments that are not operating, the ConCourt itself has been found in moments to not operate because there's no water, then it's time for the department to intervene.
Now, in your statement, you say instead of resorting to drastic supply cuts, the government should prioritize a long-term solution. I'm sure a number of people would support that long-term solution that you speak of. But what becomes the short-term solution now? Because you could find a situation where government says for most of these schools that wouldn't have water, for them the alternative right now would be to perhaps install JoJo tanks. Does that work?
Absolutely. So like I said, we ourselves have distributed JoJo tanks in numerous schools, in numerous communities, etc. We've drilled boreholes. And what we're saying, what actually got us to a point where we said we actually have to take the step, is I visited a school along with Bosa activists and other Bosa leaders, and we found that when we got to the school in January, they had not had water, and actually they were not having water for a long time. And it would affect, when you saw the toilets and the sanitation, it was really, really something that hits at the right not only to education, the right not only to dignity, but really it is something that you look at it as a human being and you say there's no human being that should be in this kind of situation. And so what then led us to that is hearing from that school that was saying they're going to take from the budget, a budget that is supposed to be focused on education, a limited budget already, a stretched budget that should be focusing on the education of children. They're going to take from that budget that they have and they're going to install a borehole. And so we started to say, no, but this shouldn't be your responsibility when there's a municipality that receives a grant to reticulate water and that is failing to reticulate water. This should not be your responsibility. And so what we're saying is in the short term, and the interdict that we want is that they should ensure that there is adequate water supply. And when we say that there should be a prevention of water shedding, whatever means that government has to take in order to ensure that there's water, they must make those means. And that should be boreholes. I mean, yesterday, where we made the announcement at Malvern Clinic in Johannesburg. And that clinic last week had interrupted services because they didn't have water for about 4 days. And when we did a walkabout at that clinic, we found that there is a JoJo tank. But that JoJo tank is not installed, that JoJo tank is not serviced, there is no water that comes to the JoJo tank, and it's not connected in any way to the operations of the clinic. And so that is where the government has to intervene and make sure that when there's a JoJo tank, it is there, it operates, it can operate, and there can be water that comes from a borehole or a supply of water that comes into the operations of those institutions.
And when are you filing the papers exactly? Is it this coming week?
So as from here, we're working with various civil society organizations we've engaged with. We're working with various communities and individuals we engage with. We're coming together with them to make sure that we're all on board. We all are signatories to not only just the papers that we're filing, but also to a petition that we have also launched. And we will then be filing the interdict post that.
Okay. And you believe that this matter must be argued in the Constitutional Court as the court of last instance, or it will start perhaps in a lower court, the High Court perhaps?
We're going straight to the Constitutional Court.
All right. Ms. Hlazo-Webster, thank you very much for joining us this evening.